Spoilers ahead for Nier Automata, Nier Replicant, and Nier Anime, and maybe some DrakenGuard 3. Yes, today I am going to be looking at Nier Automata, a game that's quite old now that I think about it, but it is a very popular game when it came out, and it's still very popular today in certain crowds. The reason why I'm doing this review is because, well, the Nier Automata anime's come out, and I felt, well, what better way to cross-pollinate than reviewing the game itself. In this part, I'll be talking specifically up to the first ending in Nier Automata. I will be pointing out a lot of Nier Replicant references throughout the game and how they affect the world story. But the reason why I want to do up to the ending A is, one, this is a big game. It's not going to easily fit into one review unless it's going to be an hour long. And if it's going to be an hour long, it's going to take me longer than a week to record the footage, edit the footage, and record this audio of me talking right now. The reason why I want to go up to ending A is because it has a really good resolution to the story, and it's a nice ending point that you just, if you were playing through this game casually and you go up to ending A and you stopped, you're an idiot of course, but it would be understandable because you sort of feel like, oh yeah, that was an ending. But as a lot of people that have played the DrakenGuard games and have played the Nier games before this one would know, and even if they've played Nier Automata and just watching this review for a little bit of cathartic fun, it is not the end. There is a total of 5 main endings. Ending A sort of scratches the surface of the Nier Automata story, and it leaves you with a lot of loose threads that have just been set up nicely throughout the storyline, some of the side missions, and a lot in the direct main story. Let's get into it. Nier Automata starts with you and a squadron of fellow androids heading towards an unknown location. Throughout this initial intro area, we are taught several mechanics on how we do our basic shoot 'em up gameplay of shooting in a straight line, moving left and right, and evading and even hitting the darker balls to make them disappear. This is very important for later gameplay, but for now it is very simple, and it's just about teaching the player that this is how these sections of the game work. During this, our squadron slowly gets picked off by the Goliath machine that we are sent here to destroy. What is the Goliath? We don't know, but we know it shoots a giant laser and destroys our teammates in one hit. That is scary. As they are all destroyed, we are given permission to go into a more mobile shooting position, where we are now aiming with our analog stick in any direction on the isometric plane and then moving with the other analog stick around the isometric plane. This allows us to have real free movement as well as more control over our character, but of course it is much slower. We then have to fight off a few flying machines that come at us from all directions until finally our last companion is destroyed by the Goliath, which we then have to ask our operator what to do. The operator suggests that we meet up with another android called 9S. We then fly full speed towards the factory ahead, and it becomes very Star Fox-esque, where we have to dodge various walls and collisions to make sure we get to the end. And at the end, we hit a wall. Dreadful. Which sends us out of the flight suit in a cool fucking cinematic. Whoa! Which leads us to our next tutorial, and this tutorial is teaching us the basic rules of the action RPG gameplay. We have a light attack, we have a heavy attack, we have a dodge which can be used at the last minute to create a counter situation. We have our basic firing from the Ikaruga style gameplay in our action RPG gameplay now. This is very Nier gameplay that we're seeing right now. And of course, we fight off wave after wave after wave of machines until finally a giant mining drill, is that what you call it? Mining drill? Mining digger smashes through the wall and comes at us. Is this the arm of a Goliath? Question mark? Who knows? We don't yet. We will soon. And we have a very tough time dodging by the skin of our teeth, using our counter targets to get in damage where we can, and constantly firing our pod gun at the machine. Eventually, we barely fend off the mining digger, and it is reeling back for one final assault at us that we can't dodge because it's a cutscene. Luckily, 9S flies in like a guardian angel descending from heaven to save us. He gives us a cheeky one-liner.
Better make sure he's actually dead next time. That was dangerous, man.
Of course, 2B goes, 9S then says, I'm going to scout ahead. You should follow when you can through the facility itself. 9S then flies away, and we have to now run through the facility to get to where the Goliath machine is. This is a fairly long section, so I'm just gonna breeze through it. We go into the factory, there is a lava floor, there's a bunch more machines that come out of pods. This is more training and getting yourself acclimated with the gameplay in this prologue, until eventually we get outside onto a dock with a giant bridge that seems to go to nowhere. As we slowly walk down the bridge, oh no, what's this rumbling behind us? Boom! Up pops the Goliath. It is a massive, colossus-sized machine. Has two arms of the digger. I should really know what this thing is called. These mining diggers that are now swinging it at us while it's also firing eye shots and giant eye lasers. This is the boss fight meta in Nier Automata when it is versing Goliath-sized machines. This is still the tutorial, and it's a very good tutorial. It teaches us that we need to dodge left and right. We need to take our time when we're attacking, but when we do attack, we should be always attacking with our pod gun. Our pod gun has two features. It has its basic shot and has its charge shot. The charge shot is very strong. It is about the strength of about 3 of your heavy attacks and about 5 of your light attacks. But whenever it is shot, it then has to recharge and has a cooldown. Throughout the fight, we constantly have to fire our gun, which is very small damage, but it's very important damage. We inevitably have to keep running away from the Goliath as it destroys the bridge below our feet, until eventually we defeat the Goliath, but it is just stunned, and 9S comes in with a heroic save again, except for he is now injured at top of the Goliath, and we now have to use his flight suit to attempt to defeat the Goliath. We use this flight suit and we fly around the Goliath, and eventually we get it stunned again, but we feel that it's coming back to life, so we sacrifice our flight suit to destroy one of the Goliath's arms as we dive into its eyes and stab its eye out. We return to the top of the Goliath, where we meet 9S on his last legs. Literally, he's lost a leg. He's on his last leg. Of course, we need to be rescued now that the Goliath has been defeated, but 9S says to us, that's not going to be necessary, because all of a sudden, several Goliaths appear. They come out from the water near us. We have no choice left. The final choice that all androids must face is death or suicide.
Oh, great.
They both pull out their black boxes, and they cause the black box reaction, destroying all the Goliaths in the area.
It was an honor to fight with you. Truly.
The honor was mine.
Our hero 2B awakens in the bunker. The bunker is a military defensive base that is orbiting the Earth, which I think is also in geosynchronous orbit with the moon. And there is a reason for this, because the moon is where the last vestige of humanity resides after an alien invasion affected Earth. And the aliens with them brought machines, and these machines killed humans to terraform the Earth to make it habitable for the aliens. Your very standard alien invasion storyline. Our hero 2B then has their eyes and hearing tinkered with by 9S in a little bit of meta commentary, and we go to our first item shop. Now we'll see these throughout the game. They have the ability to buy consumables such as health and other things such as plug-in chips, and these plug-in chips improve and deprove our character depending on what sort of chips we use. They have a number-based system, which means if it's got 12 on the right hand side, that's how many slots it will take up. And how many slots does your character have? I believe it is based on what level your character is. So say your character is level 0, it's just going to have its base 10 slots. If your character is level 20, it's going to have the base 10 slots plus 20 slots. I think that's how it works. I haven't really looked into it because it's not an integral way the game is played. However, there is some additional functionality to these plug-in chips that when you die in the game, your body is returned, well, your consciousness is returned to where you last saved, which is what happens in the bunker. Your consciousness was sent back to the bunker and you remember where you were last saved. And this is literally an in-game feature of the game. Where you save your consciousness, and that's where you go back to when you die. When you die, you lose all the plug-in chips you currently have installed because they were on your physical body when it died. So you have to go back to your body and recover your chips and recover your experience that you lost from dying. This is very annoying in joke endings, such as this one, where I sell my OS chip and I get the true ending of the game. Yes, there are many joke endings in this game, and we are going to encounter quite a few of them, unintentionally and intentionally. I know where they all are now. I'm still going to do them and be annoyed when I do them. There is one that I do much later in this playthrough where I eat some fish that was given to me by Jackass, and I have to replay a whole 30-minute segment, including a boss fight, because I didn't fucking save. It was annoying to say the least, frustrating to say a lot. We then go visit our commander, who tells us that the resistance base on Earth that we have a communication line with needs aid, and so they sent us, 9S and 2B, in flight units. 9S comments that these flight units are very expensive, and we were very lucky to be partaking and using them to get to Earth again. On our travels to Earth, we fight a few machines, we go through some aerial landscape shots of the ruins of Earth, which we see is mostly overgrown large city settlements. And it's very reminiscent of, say, a zombie apocalypse movie where all the vines are growing up the sides of the building and the Earth is retaking the Earth. Upon landing on a skyscraper, we then overlook the plains of the city ruins that is our main hub world. And I'm now going to point out how this hub world connects to the previous hub world of the game Nier. In Nier Replicant, we have a very similar hub world where in the center we have our main city with our main quest givers, and from this main city we then go out to various different zones. There's a desert zone, there's a beach zone, which we'll be referring to later, and there will be a different city zone where in Nier Replicant all these citizens were isolationists and they did not want anyone to come in from outside because of fear. I'll talk about this later when we get to the city that this pertains to. We then go to the resistance camp and we meet with resistance leader Anemone. She tells us that we're glad you're here. We need the help. First, before we send you out on your mission, go gather supplies with the item store and the weapon store and see if they have any quests for you that are pertaining for the various resistance members on the base. These are basically the side quests of the game, and a quick hot tip for you if you're wanting to play this game and get full completionist, do all the side quests immediately after getting them. Because as you progress through the game, various side quests get locked off permanently for that route. Because once you beat the route, you go back into the game, you get the choice of either redoing the route you've done or doing a new adventure. However, there are some side quests that are clearly above your character's level. Do not force yourself to do those side quests, as when you beat the game, you'll come back and save the levels that you have and redo the route or do a different route, and these side quests will pop up again. They are what I would like to call persistent side quests that seem to hold over until next route. So don't feel pressured that you have to do every single side quest, but most side quests, the moment you get it, you should do it if you want to do completionist stuff. We then return to an enemy, and she tells us in the desert zone there is a machines that are acting different to other machines, and that's all the stuff that we get about them. So we go to investigate, and upon investigating the desert zone, we meet up with Jackass. Yes, the same person who gives me a fish later in this video, and I will die to it. They blow up a section of a wall which allows us access to the desert zone, which would not have been accessible before without their help. In the desert zone, we find machines that are wearing clothing. They now have mild speech patterns and they want to kill us, except for one which runs away. We assume that this is the machine that we're told to investigate more specifically, so we follow them, and it leads us to a desert housing complex. This is a housing complex in the middle of a sand desert, so what presumably happened throughout the many years of this war with the aliens and the androids, the deserts have reclaimed parts of the city, as the terraforming has affected the Earth, adjusting how the climates have moved on Earth. In these desert housing townships, there are more machines wearing clothes that seem to be taking their command from the single machine that has run away from us. We continue to pursue it while fighting through various machines with various abilities to communicate and have emotions, until we come across a large pit filled to the brim with machines wearing clothing. They are doing human-like actions. Very human actions. They of course attack us because, well, they're machines and we're androids, so of course they're going to attack us. And we then fight back and slowly defeat them all. Eventually they are outnumbering us to such an extent of extremeness where we are considering using our black boxes to wipe all these machines out and just be done with the whole bitch. Until they all combine and turn into this gigantic sack of machines that starts glowing and pussing and oozing out machine oil, we assume, until a human falls out. This human, although it does not have a name on the screen right now, is called Adam. Yes, Adam from Adam and Eve. This will be very important later for very on-the-nose reasons. Adam looks at us and he is very confused. Of course, 9S goes, "It's a machine! We must kill it regardless of what it looks like." Adam doesn't have a penis though, thankfully. That would be awkward. Imagine it flapping around in the wind while we're fighting it. Side note, I've modded my game, and throughout these mods, I found a lot of nude mods. Not happy, Mr. Nexus mods. You need to censor that shit. I'm not saying they shouldn't exist, I'm saying that they shouldn't fucking show bare breasts on the fucking mod page. What is wrong with you? Fix your shit. Have a proper 18+ filter. My god. Besides the point, Adam eventually gets stronger and more intelligent throughout the fight until he eventually starts dodging us and reflecting our own pod bullets back at us, and at one point it even manipulates the air itself with these weird white vapor trails, which is very confusing and does not get explained in the whole of Route A. Hopefully it gets explained later on in the game. I can't remember, it's been a while since I played the game. And Adam gets, well, yeah, fucking brutal, am I right? And of course, out of Adam's rib comes another human. And can you guess what its name is? Yep, it's Eve. Eve then screams extremely loudly, and the area around starts destructing and falling apart, causing us to have to retreat from these enemies and retreat from both Adam and Eve and let them settle in this pit, and hopefully they get destroyed from their own hubris. After we escape, we contact with the bunker about what we found, and they go, "Whoa, that's crazy. That's never happened before. We swear." We don't believe them. This next section of the game begins with 9S doing a front flip for literally no reason. No, actually, we get a call from our commander saying that there have been a number of black box failure signals coming from a particular area, and they want all Yohai units on the Earth to investigate. Now, Yohai is the name of the organization that the androids belong to, and the Yohai units are specifically the elite android units. There are other androids that aren't a part of the Yohai organization, such as the resistance members previously shown in this video. So we head to the location of this distress signal, and we find a theme park filled with robots dressed as clowns and theme park attendees, or just theme park personnel. And we go around and we talk to these people. They all actually have human consciousness, and none of them appear to be violent. Although, if you do attack them, they will attack you back. We then go further into the park and we find a gate that is explicitly locked shut. We have to find a way around. We head into one of the alleyways and we find some of these machines are less capable and have more errors going on in their human programming, as far as we can understand it. We eventually come to a person standing guard who says there is a, specifically I think it was, junk error ahead. When we head to this next area, there is a tank. However, this tank is an optional boss. You do not have to fight it at this period in time. And quite frankly, unless you've done a lot of the side missions to level up your character, I would recommend just skipping this for now and heading on to the roller coaster. And that's exactly what I did. I just went, use the tank, it's cool. And I skipped it. I hopped onto this roller coaster and we have lovely jokes about how this is how humans used to have fun back in the day. This is a recurring reference that 2B and 9S talk about during their journeys together. They wonder about the human lives and wish to go back to these human lives and partake in the fancy, average day-to-day adventures that humans have, such as going to shopping malls, eating basic food, and buying shirts. Literally buying a t-shirt is one of the conversation topics that eventually happens. After the roller coaster ride where a few machines attack us, it's not really a huge deal and it turns into more of like a side-scrolling defensive game rather than anything else. Very reminiscent of a mild Contra level, except for instead of progressing forward, you just stand still and enemies come towards you. We end up at the top of the castle, which is clearly a reference to Disney Castle in Disneyland. We then hop down a hole and we are in a auditorium. And in this auditorium is the opera singer. However, the name doesn't appear yet. It just has a bunch of squiggles instead. But for me, knowing about wikis I've read and seeing the boss's name later on, it is called the opera singer. And the opera singer has a bunch of dead androids strapped to her bodice. The Opera Singer has a lot of varying attacks at us, including a new attack that we get introduced into this boss mechanic, which is the hacking mechanic. This will become a much more prevalent form of attack and defense when we get into our second playthrough with 9S. During this boss fight, eventually a bunch of androids that have been crucifixed land into the arena, and they start sending out these sound-looking waves, and these are the hack waves, where we have to constantly partake in the hacking minigame. The hacking minigame involves you being a small triangle ship which has 3 lives. Every time you get hit, you lose a part of your triangle. Once you get hit 3 times, you get hacked and you suffer a consequence from that hack. You do not die, although you do lose HP, so eventually you will die if you have no HP. What a hack also does makes various corruptions to your HUD or other systems that your character uses. The most common effect is your HP bar no longer being reliable. It extends over 4 times and overlaps to a second row, and it becomes hard to tell how much HP you actually have, leading to your demise from not healing to be more readily happening. We didn't defeat the Opera Singer without much fuss, but we are definitely very perturbed by this situation we have found ourselves in, and we leave the auditorium with a few requests towards our bunker teammates about what the situation had just occurred. Outside of the castle, on the bridge, we find a peculiar machine with a white flag being waved. This machine has green eyes. These green eyes are significant because it indicates that these machines have been separated from the network. Now, what is the network? Now, this is very complicated, but quite simply, we can view the machine life form as a hive mind, much like you would have with bees. Every single bee is connected to this hive mind, and they move together in accordance to the whim of the hive. As the hive gets more corrupted, the bees in the hive become corrupted. As you would look in a hard drive, there are different sectors of the hard drive, and if a part of a sector of the hard drive gets corrupted, and that sector happens to interact with other sections, those sections may not be corrupted, but they will have corruptions in them, which leads to the appearances of a few of these machines, such as machines having a particular set of clothing, or acting like they're in a theme park. This is why these machines have all these different attitudes and situations about them. However, these machines of green eyes are disconnected from this network and this hive mind, which also means they are vulnerable to death. Where all other machines attached to the hive mind, their consciousness is a part of the hive mind, so if they die, they can be reborn into a different machine and continue on their existence. Whereas these machines outside of the hive mind, once they die, they die. This machine that has surrendered to us then takes us to the machine village. This machine village is very close to the area that I was talking about in the previous part as the isolationist village in Nier 1, which means a lot of these machines have very similar attitudes. This is either intentional or it is a weird mind meld that has come from the past to these new residents. There is in fact one resident in this village that remarks that he is very happy to remain inside his house, which is what these isolationists said a lot when we visited them, because they refused to come outside of the house whatsoever to greet us. The leader of this machine village is Pascal, and for those of you who do not know, Pascal is a mathematician from the 1600s who is famous for a few mathematic formulas. Importantly, at the time of the Nier Automata's creation, Pascal was the code name for the NVIDIA GPU cards that were coming out in the next few years. Pascal explains that they have been in regular communications with the resistance space that we know, and an enemy and Pascal trade resources with each other because they each can independently create various oils or machine parts that the other needs. We then bring this machine part that we were given from Pascal back to an enemy and the resistance base. At the resistance base, we talk to a few more of our residents, and they also remark about their interactions with the machine village. When we leave the machine village, we push a box out of the way, and to directly the right, we see a giant crevice and a bridge. Now this is a reference to Nier Replicant in Nier, where there was a bridge to what was known as the Shadow King's castle. And the Shadow King castle is a very important place, but I'm not going to go into too much detail about it right now, maybe later on. But this crevice also extended along to where the isolationist village was. When we would leave the main city in Nier and we would go to the left, there would be a giant crevice and a small bridge that you can cross. When you cross that bridge, you would head to your left, and that would be where the isolationist village is, where one of your most important comrades lives. I'll be talking about this in a lot more detail, hopefully in Route B. After we go back to the Resistance village, they ask us to go back to the Machine village, and when we return to the Machine village, Pascal and ourselves hear a large rumbling earthquake. We then get a call from command that several Goliath machines have invaded the city ruins and we have to dispatch them as quickly as possible. Returning to the city ruins, we see these Goliath machines wreaking havoc on the city ruins and near where the resistance base is. We then do our best to evade them by running underneath some of their feet and dodging them all outright. We get in our flight units that we have left back on the skyscraper, even though we didn't leave them there, they flew off and then they came back. I don't know why they couldn't just come and get us in the ravine. Besides the freaking point, we go back to where our flight units were and we then fight the Goliath units. We defeat the Goliath units, but they come back to life with a resonating sound and self-destruct, very reminiscent to the black box explosions that we did in the prologue. This exposes a large crater in the ground where an alien signal is coming from. Yes, those aliens. They're back. This is the first signal we've had from the aliens in over 100 years, according to the commander. We are then sent into the hull to investigate these alien symbols. And who do we find where the alien signals are? It is Adam and Eve. And they are posturing some fucking vague ass shit, man. I don't fucking know what the hell they're trying to say. But during this fight, 2B fights Eve. And this is important to note because it is what will happen in the final confrontation, where 2B is fighting Eve and 9S fights a version of Adam as their final villain. After we fight with Eve and Adam for a while, they then beat out the shit of us in a cutscene, and then they say, ha ha ha, we're going to kill all androids, and then we'll go after the humans, ha 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 ha, and they piss off, leaving us in the alien ship by ourselves, and all of the aliens are dead. If the aliens are dead, who's controlling the machines? After the events in the crashed spaceship with the aliens, we are asked to return to the bunker to give our findings in our report. However, to get back to the bunker, we are given access to a new system, which is the fast transport system. Essentially what this does is turn every single save station into a fast travel station instead. This fast travel system allows us to travel to the bunker without using the flight units, which of course are expensive and leaves us prone to attack from machines. So we travel back to the bunker and we instantly give our report. It literally is a fade in and then fade out. After giving our report to the commander then tells us that this will have to be given to the Council of Humanity, which very heavily implies that the Council of Humanity does indeed contain humans, at least according to the commander. The commander then asks to do a more thorough investigation into the individual machine known as Pascal. This raises some red flags for us because why is Pascal being selected out of all of these machines that we've met that have the ability to communicate? There is a reason for this, and the reason is to listen to Pascal's voice. So we go to Pascal and we talk to Pascal and we ask her a few pointed questions. One of the pointed questions we ask is, who are the aliens? And Pascal replies that, I'm not sure who the aliens are who created us. They just were, I guess. So Pascal is kind of a dead end in that point. We then ask Pascal why she separated from the network. And Pascal replied to us, I separated from the network because I did not want to see any more of my friends die. Not because I was afraid of my friends dying, but afraid that I would stop caring when my friends died. This is very pointed, and it is incredibly important to working out the true identity of who Pascal is, which we'll find out in other endings. I will come back to this point later in this review, and of course in subsequent follow-ups. Finally, we ask Pascal if there are any other machines disconnected from the network. Pascal hesitates and then tells us, which gives us our hint on where to go next. Let's talk about some side quests in Nier. This is an excellent opportunity because we have a break from emergency things that need to be done in the main story. So we have time to go and pick up some side quests and do some side quests. And in this part of the story is some of the best side quests, particularly the stamp side quest at the theme park. In this side quest, we are asked by the greeter at the front of the theme park if we can collect 10 stamps. And if we collect 10 stamps, he will give us a special prize. To do this, we then go around the theme park and I defeat the tank because this is a convenient time to defeat the tank, and then collect 9 stamps. The 9th stamp is a play of Romeo and Juliet as done by the machines. This is a very comedic moment, and quite frankly, what was more funny was the reaction by the machines after the play itself. Then we have 1 stamp left. We go down an elevator where there is a bunch of the more corrupted machines that don't quite fit with the other theme park machines. They all then bum rush us to try and kill us. This is very zombie-esque and confusing. Why are they trying to kill us? And why does it feel like they want to die? Because these machines have been disconnected from the network. Remember this point. After defeating these machines, which took me a long time because I was kinda underleveled doing this side quest, but you can cheese it pretty easily by using the charged pod shot. We then return to the stamp collector at the front of the theme park, and he gives us our reward. Another good side quest is the training sensei side quest, where we have one machine that has a white bandana and an all-white chassis, and he challenges us to duels. He gets progressively harder each time we fight him, and he gives us a very good reward every time we defeat him, as long as we give him more parts to make him stronger. And as he gets stronger, he gets more and more conceited and more bravado. Another side quest in this period is a protect the clown party as they celebrate their peaceful ways going across the city ruins. I failed this quest because I'm not high enough level for it. This is one of those quests that it's best to come back to later on. Another side quest is in the desert area where I found another pod which allows me to have 2 pods under my command. Only one shoots at a time, but you can swap between the pods to have different abilities for different situations. Another ability that these dual pods give you is you can charge up your pod ability twice, giving it an even stronger blast, but at the risk of holding down the charge up button longer. In this desert area as well is a special cult. This is very much a Devil May Cry Tower of Paradise? Tower of Fantasy? Not sure what it's called, but it's just fight waves of enemies with certain prerequisites that you have to fulfill. For the first one, it is you cannot use the pod at all, you have to fight with just melee. Lastly, we have this child that needs to be found for her mother and their father. This is another escort mission. It is a rather slow and tedious escort mission as the child is very childlike and refuses to speed up and also gets scared easily, so it stops early. This took a while and it was not what I would call a fun side quest, but it is important to note because it shows a maybe not interesting side quest, but an interesting story for the side quest. This is something you don't usually see in a lot of RPGs. Particularly I'm thinking of something like God of War Ragnarok, where a lot of the side quests were just go here, keep going forward, kill this thing, you're done, get out. Whereas this, it was an escort mission, but it was an escort mission with a story. And that's why I'm including it in this review. We leave the machine village and head over the bridge of the chasm. Here, we then get ambushed by machines, thinking that it's a dead end, this isn't the way to the forest village. After defeating the machines, one of the machines' heads lands perfectly and doesn't explode. Instead opens, and inside is a head. A very peculiar looking head. Of course 9S says that we must kill it, and the head runs away and breaks open a gate for us. We then follow after the head into the forest area. This head is, of course, Emil. For those of you who have not played Nier, this is a spoiler, but Emil is from the original Nier game. And Emil was a genetically created super soldier who then used his dead sibling slash clone slash twin to get more transcendental powers. Emil's original powers was the ability to petrify people upon sight, so he always had his eyes covered with a bandana. Where is that familiar? Well, obviously, 2B and 9S and other Yohai soldiers have their eyes covered. Also, the eye covering represents a blindness to knowledge. Hence, my first real chapter in this review was called See No Evil. As we progress further into the forest zone, we find a giant castle. But before that, heading towards this giant castle is numerous forest night machines. These are machines that all spout the same dogma of protect the king. Protect the king. Who is this king? Why do they want to protect them? We get just before the castle entrance, and out come some large robots. They're not Goliath robots, but they are definitely more bodyguard-like robots. They spout more rhetoric about protecting the king, protect the king, protect the king. We then cross over the chasm into the castle, which you could think of as the Shadow King's castle. Inside the castle is actually a different place completely. This place is way more reminiscent of Emil's home in Nier Replicant. I say this mostly because of this library room at the back of the castle. It's not geologically where Emil's house would be, because Emil's house is on the way to the beach area, whereas this seems to be on the same line as the isolated people's area. But it is to the left of the isolated people's village, or very close to the isolated people's village, so it's kinda confusing why this would have such connections to Emil's home. Inside the castle is a more Castlevania style gameplay system, where we are now fighting on a 2D plane going left to right, and enemies come out of the screen on either the right or the left depending on the actions that the player takes. As we fight up the castle and through the library, we eventually arrive in a giant open space where worms seem to be digging through the castle. We've only ever seen these worms in one other place, which was just before the alien spaceship in the pit. Is there a connection between these 2 points? Is there a connection between the aliens and the king? Finally, we get to the king's chambers and we have to fight through the king's elite guard to get towards the king. And as we approach the king, is that a baby machine? Are we seriously going to kill a baby? I mean, these humans, they're disconnected from the network. They should eventually start, being able to be tamed and communicated with. But we're going to kill a baby machine? And out pops A2. A2 is a rogue Yohai soldier. We are told this by command, well specifically by our operator, when we ask who is this, and Pod tells us that A2 is a rogue Yohai soldier that has to be eliminated. Not captured, eliminated. We of course fight A2. This begs the question, A2 killed the baby machine. Why is she rogue? Is there something that we don't know? Why is something that we were hesitating to do, that we thought was the right thing to do, and then she did the right thing? Why does that make her rogue? The fight continues. It is quite tough as A2 is very strong and you need to use a lot of healing potions and make sure you dodge correctly and time dodges correctly. I'm pretty sure you can just jump over this attack, but I just dodged it every time when I could. After a while, A2 then jumps out of the battle and heads towards the window and then gives us this vague line. Are we in the wrong? What is actually happening? Doubt. Hey guys, I just want to take a moment in the middle of this video. This is literally the halfway point of the video to say this project got way out of hand. It's way longer than I wanted it to be. If you could subscribe and give it a like and even share it, that would help a lot. Thank you. After leaving the castle, we contact the bunker about A2. We get told by our operator that the reason why A2 deserted is classified. 9S then thinks we should talk to Pascal about this. We send the message to Pascal. Pascal says to us that they'll open the forest zone gate, allowing us back to the free machine village quicker and easier. After we meet Pascal and we ask her about A2, Pascal says that A2 is in her archives, but she does not know anything in particular about A2. Speaking of A2, who is a deserter, she is not the only deserter in the game from the Yohai forces. Previously in the game, we have been told that we have to hunt down Yohai deserters, and we find 2 of them near where our flight units landed. We fight them there and they run off. Eventually we meet them again on top of one of the giant Goliaths that we defeated, and we fight them again and we defeat them. The reason we were told to defeat these deserters was they were stealing supplies from the Resistance base camp. When we confront an enemy about these resistant supplies going missing, she says that no supplies have gone missing, leading us to really doubt command about whether or not it is right for us to defeat these Yohai forces that have deserted. Another side mission about Yohai deserters is a very interesting one in my mind, which we go to the bunker and we talk to one of the engineers for the flight units, and she says a B model that went with us in the initial assault at the beginning of the game has gone missing, and she wants us to retrieve her weapon because she very much appreciated that person. When we head back through the foundry area to where we first entered after the flight section, we find a Yohai soldier's body. Along with her body and her weapon, there is a log of her last moments. The log then tells us that this member of our unit was trying to desert. We then bring this information and the weapon back to the engineer on the bunker, and we tell her of this information, and she is surprised to hear this. But she then starts laughing and says, "I knew it. I never liked that person in the first place." After we do this, she then gives us a very high level defense plug-in chip, almost as if she has given up on life after the one person that she trusted betrayed her. I thought these two side missions were very poignant, and especially after meeting A2, that maybe we should definitely not be trusting our superiors, or at least verifying whether or not everything we are doing is in fact the right thing to do, especially when it comes to the machines. Back at the Resistance base, we have to talk to an enemy because she has a mission for us. And the mission that she wants us to do is to defend a supply cache that is being sent by the bunker for the Resistance unit. And this supply cache has a load of missiles. We head to the flooded zone where the supply cache is. We defeat a group of machines that seem to be trying to get the supply cache, after which we get an emergency message from Command. Commander says, "There is a Goliath machine en route to the supply cache. We are sending flight units for you to defend the supply cache. You're the only ones in the area. Immediately get to work." 2B and 9S then use the flight units to battle a Goliath machine in the air. If you look at the first episode of Nier Anime, this unit exists in the prologue section of the game, even though in the prologue section of the game this unit does not exist. We defeat this Goliath machine all too easily, at least from our perspective, and 9S remarks, "How can we not see it? It's so huge," leading us to be confused because we defeated the Goliath machine, did we not? And then out of the water comes a giant Leviathan, and it devours the carrier ship that we were protecting from the other Goliath machine. We then set about our attack on the Leviathan, and we have noticed that it has a EMP pulse that is defending its vitals from being turned off. We then destroyed this protective EMP barrier, and a orbital laser from above shoots and hits the Leviathan. The Leviathan does not get destroyed, and in fact continues moving. A squad of Yohai soldiers then show up to give us aid, and we continue to fight. 9S says, "I have an idea. If we can't destroy this unit from the outside, maybe we should destroy it from some other means." And we head back to the coastal area where there is an artillery unit. We take control of the artillery unit and fire several shots into the mouth of the Leviathan, hoping that we could destroy it from the inside by using its mouth. After hitting this Leviathan in the mouth, it stands up, and it turns out it is the size of a skyscraper. And we have no idea how to defeat it. All of the Yohai soldiers have been caught in an EMP blast, and we have been only saved by the aid of Pascal and another free machine. We then continue to fight alone with just 2B and 9S. 9S then gets an idea and says, "Hold out 2B and destroy the EMP circuits as much as you can. I'll be back soon." Our pod unit decides that 9S is deserting and we should go after 9S and take him out. We continue fighting the Leviathan while placing our faith in 9S to return. After destroying several EMP layers with the aid of Pascal, eventually 9S returns with a large cache of missiles, delivering the payload into the Leviathan. We get blown away from the scene. Tubi regains consciousness in the flooded zone, and we are all alone with just our pod. We look around for 9S, we cannot find him. We ask the pod to do a scan for the black box of 9S. There is no signature of 9S at all. Confused on what to do, we contact the bunker, and the bunker says, we cannot find any Yohai units, but you need to clear out the flooded area and get back to the resistance base as fast as possible. We head back through the flooded area, clearing out all machines in our path, and we reach the resistance base. At the resistance base, we ask an enemy for a way to find 9S. An enemy tells us that maybe with a scanner that 2 individuals that have returned to the camp have in their possession. These 2 individuals are Popola and Devola. These 2 people are from Nier 1 and they are one of the lead antagonists. However, right now they are on our side and they are helping us, and that is as far as we will look at this stage. It is just an interesting tidbit at this point. We use the scanner that we have gained from them back at the flooded area and search for various Yohai units that have been left stranded, hoping that one of them will be 9S. We ask the bunker to send aid to these units until we find this final unit near a bus at the explosion zone. This unit tells us that 9S was flung far from the explosion and said in this general vicinity we think that 9S is. It is in the pit, surprisingly, when 9S has landed. We head into the pit and we get a strange signature that wasn't there before. We follow it down and it's an elevator that leads to this completely fabricated white world. In this white world, we encounter Adam again. Adam now is radically stronger than he ever was before, and his ability to manipulate this world seems to be like second nature, like he was a creator, a god almost. He then reveals that he has 9S under his control, captured in a crucifix position. This causes 2B to be incredibly angry and lashes out at Adam, and Adam is enthralled by this, and he reveals that he wishes to be killed. He disconnects himself from the network, preventing his consciousness from returning to his body or to another body. We eventually defeat Adam and we rush to 9S's side. 9S is severely beaten but not dead, and we can quickly rush him to recovery in the bunker, where he can get a new body. While 9S is recovering, we get a message from Pascal that a new machine group has disconnected from the network and she's attempting to set up a negotiation for positive relations with this new machine group. They have apparently settled in the Foundry area. We head there and meet up with Pascal. Pascal and 2B enter the area and we meet up with a priest, as it seems, and he says that they follow a new religion, a new machine religion, and that their way is the absolute correct way. We follow this priest further into the Foundry, and we see some of these devout followers lined up, and we ask them about their experience and how they're going. They're saying everything's fine, everything's great. This is a fantastic religion. As we continue deeper into the Foundry, there are less and less machines about, and then we get into an elevator and we are taken to where we are told the machine prophet is. The machine prophet is surrounded by several hundred zealot machines that seem to be praying towards the prophet machine. The prophet machine then says, the only point of this religion is death. Now that we have disconnected from the network, we can now finally die. And this android is our salvation. Attack the android. It will free us. It will bring us death. All of the machines then get extremely aggressive and attack 2B. And 2B is very confused, going, I shouldn't kill these machines. In fact, even Pascal is saying, do not kill these, get the fuck out of here. And we try to escape. There is no escape. Luckily, 9S comes in with the contact and says, I'll be hacking the elevator, hold that for as long as you can, and I'll get the elevator working for us. After fighting off these zealots for a good while, eventually the elevator becomes available to us from 9S's hacking, and we enter the elevator and head to the top. Through the elevator there is another machine. Instinctively we attempt to attack it, but it has different eyes, and it turns out 9S has hacked this machine and is now communicating with us from it. 9S says there is an escape route and we must escape as quick as possible. And we now enter a new area of the Foundry that we haven't seen before. In this area, several machines have different attack patterns than anywhere else in the game, and one in particular is a suicide bomb machine, where a machine holds a bomb above its head and runs directly at us, hoping to kill us. This is a very hard section of the game, and I almost died several times, but luckily I had a plugin which recovered 30% of my health every time I killed the machine, so as these suicide machines were coming at me, I just kept glacking at them, and every damage I would take I'd instantly recover. After getting through this foundry area, we get to another elevator which sends us to this hallway where we hope our exit is, and as we are heading out the exit, we head through this arena-like area with two bridges. As we are heading over one bridge and towards the second bridge, both bridges raise up, and out from above us comes another Goliath machine. This is a round spherical ball, and it has a EMP aura much like the Leviathan Goliath we fought before, and when we attempt to attack this ball Goliath, we cannot render any damage to it at all. 9S says that he can hack this Goliath's shielding and allow us to attack this Goliath directly, but we have to hold out until then. This is an interesting, different sort of boss fight than any other boss fight because we can't actually damage the boss, but we can at least still dodge, and this gives us time to learn the boss's move set without worrying about trying to get our attacks in. And we learn that we can dodge this way, it attacks this way. It has like 4 different attacks, one being a frontal swipe, one being a jump up where it shoots shockwaves out, and a third one being when it's behind. When it's behind is facing you, it stabs you with its tail that then goes back into its body and stabs you again several times. I can't think of a non-lewd way to describe that, but I hope it's my best there. It's literally shooting something out its ass at you. Eventually 9S manages to deactivate the shielding on this Goliath, and we can now destroy this Goliath piece by piece. We attack its legs to cause it to be stunned, and then we hit its weak point for massive damage.
And you attack its weak point for massive damage.
We managed to defeat this Goliath with a sick-ass slice through the ball. With several slices, it's freaking cool. And then we escape the facility. As we escape the facility, we are no longer receiving any resistance from the machines in the area. In fact, they are instead literally throwing themselves into lava to suicide and asking why the Prophet has left them in this way and what is their purpose anymore, leading us to believe that these machine minds, as they separate from the consciousness, are getting more and more corrupted, just like this cult. Pascal says she's going to return to her free village and that we should go about our way. As we are heading on our way, we get an urgent call from the resistance base saying that these machines have come out of nowhere and started attacking the resistance base. So we quickly rush to the resistance base where we see a new type of machines that are attacking and literally devouring the androids in the resistance base. These androids have a zombified look to them, as much as a machine could have a zombified look, and it is literally eating androids. We defeat all the machines in the resistance base, and an enemy says that there are still machines everywhere and we need to leave the resistance base and take the fight to them. As we are leaving the resistance base, the Goliath ball that we destroyed before is somehow back, We then attempt to destroy it again, but we are failing miserably, but we are still doing damage to it. As we do the last tick of damage, 9S flies in with her flight unit and we are reunited and we manage to defeat this Goliath ball. However, the Goliath ball, as it dies, a bunch of machines then rush to it, sort of collide and make a new impromptu Goliath ball out of machines themselves, with a solid core in the center. With 9S and 2B finally working together again, they managed to defeat this clump of machine parts and destroy the core center. This is something that is clearly unprecedented and extremely urgent that needs to be dealt with straight away. After defeating this ball of machines, we get a call from Pascal saying they need urgent help at the Free Machine Village. We rush over there as fast as possible, and as we are heading there, a giant snake of machines seems to be chasing us, and it seems to have a core in its center as well. So we keep running away from it towards the Machine Village shortcut that we knew of before, and it's currently blocked off by a giant block. This snake of machines and a core in the center of it continues attacking at us, and we have to defeat this machine before we can gain access back to the Free Machine Village. As we are fighting this snake, we manage to defeat it yet again with a bit more complicated rules to it. You have to actually shoot it so it goes and lands on the ground and all the machine parts apart from it, because you have stunned it, and then you can actually do some real damage to it. And then all the machine parts come again, it turns back into a snake and starts, squirming and worming, all crazy like. We shoot it again, and we hit it, and we take it out, and this machine part is dead again. We get a loud sound from a different direction, opposite to the Free Machine Village, and we are called to the radio. We start hearing a strong frequency directly from Eve towards all communicators in the area. We head immediately to the source of this sound waves, which is in the middle of the pit. We dive into the pit and we confront Eve for possibly the final time. Eve then spouts some nonsense about us killing Adam and that she hates us, or he hates us, for killing their brother. Eve gets super pissy. We defeat him, and then he gets even more pissy and his entire body turns from normal skin color to complete black. As we've seen throughout the game, parts of their skin has been slowly turning more and more black, and at the start of this fight, half of Eve's skin is black and the other half is normal. And this is a direct reference to the Shadow King monster in Nier. And for those of you who do not know about Nier lore, I'm going to spoil it right here, because this isn't a Nier review, this is a Nier Automata review, and we kind of need to spoil it. The Shadow King is a entity that has been completely consumed by magic, and this magic has caused corruption in the body, causing the person to turn into a shadow. And the Shadow King is actually the real version of Nier, who is the brother of the sister. It's not super important, but it is worth pointing out right here, so that everyone kind of gets the reference. Eve then gets the ability to start manipulating the reality of the Earth surrounding. Now, Adam could only do it in this pseudo-virtual world, whereas this is actually in the real world, and Eve is controlling stuff with pure telekinetics. Very similar to how we can control weapons. For instance, in the beginning of the game, which I didn't really make too big of a comment on, we are actually able to control a Goliath arm because we consider it a weapon, which allows us to wield the Goliath as a weapon, or the Goliath arm as a weapon, and use our telekinetics to swing and whack and hit things. But Eve is doing it to literally anything in this vicinity, and she starts a gigantic, I say she, it's a it starts a gigantic storm, lifting up rocks from the ground, and we now have to do a little platforming to chase after Eve and beat them down. Eve then goes even more insane and does a giant shockwave, sending us to the ground and being very weak in state. We now have to shoot our best at Eve with no ability to run or dodge and just barely hobble, and we have to dodge the bullet storm. After blasting Eve for quite a bit, this is actually one of the hardest parts of the game because you just have no mobility whatsoever. She is eventually not defeated, but injured enough to send out another shockwave which disables our pod. We now only have our melee, but Eve is stunned on the ground ahead of us. The cutscene starts and 2B rushes towards Eve and stabs Eve right in the face. Right in the face. Whoa, cathartic. The storm suddenly stops around and it's now a bright sunny day. Everything is good, we've saved the day. Except 9S has been infected by Eve because 9S has been connecting with the machine network and Eve was directly connected to the machine network. During its death pulse, it sent out Eve's consciousness to any machines that could handle it, including 9S. 9S then begs for us to kill him. And this scene is 100% ripping off Evangelion, where Shinji chokes Asuka on the beach and in various other places. But it's nice to see here, and instead of being a whiny bitch choking out a bitch, it's a kick-ass woman choking out a kid that is begging for death. This leaves 2B incredibly heartbroken for a total of 5 seconds until right next to 2B, 9S takes control of a machine. 2B initially thinks that it's the machines coming together, but it turns out it was just 9S's latent consciousness coming through the machine network and eventually taking control of a close machine to talk to 2B, and that is where this ending ends. I hope you guys have enjoyed this review so far. I definitely went a bit too long and I apologize. I apologize mostly to myself because I didn't want it to be this long. It's just there is a lot of story in this game and it's kind of hard to review it unless you tell the whole story. And this is only one part of 5. So I am not looking forward to my future and I have bit off way too much than I can chew. I hope you guys check out the Nier Automata anime and definitely check out the game. It is fantastic. It is not my most favorite game, but it is definitely up there. It is in that top like 20, top 100 games. I'd say top 100, but like when you think about how many good games have been released throughout all time, that's pretty good. I'd say like top 20 definitely. Not top 10 because I like a lot of games. There are some really good gems, but when it comes to an interesting anime story in a video game, this beats them all. Hope you guys enjoyed. Check out Nier Automata, check out the anime. I will be making more reviews of Nier Automata. Gonna do the rest of the endings, gonna record all that stuff and then do more reviews. I'm hoping they're gonna be shorter because a lot of the bulk of the information is in this review, and in these other reviews it's more gonna be about more specific stuff. I hope. I honestly do not know. This review completely got away from me. Really did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, whatever else if you got here. Leave a comment or some shit, I don't know.